Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hi there. Welcome to this, the 61st episode of A Couple Takes on MS. Hi, this is Dan Digman.
And hi, it's me, Jennifer Digman.
And thank you all for holding out for last week was an encore episode of our show when the MS caregiver gets sick, because my sickness did not go away.
No, babe, your sickness did not go away. And to be very honest with you listeners, Dan is still battling his bronchitis that he was diagnosed with last week. And for any of you living with multiple sclerosis, whether it's in your body or you're the caregiver or someone living with MS and a simple little cold is never simple, nor is a cold little.
Nothing simple about it, but we're back this time. What we want to talk about today and this week is regarding MS research. And just a little background on us, just so you know more about us and we talk about caregiving. I'm Jennifer's primary caregiver, but I also have relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, and I was diagnosed almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Crazy how time flies.
And so I have relapsing remitting MS, and then my lovely wife Jennifer of 13 years.
I have been diagnosed and living with a secondary progressive form of multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed with the relapsing remitting form back in 1997, but in this 21 years that has progressed, and I'm seeking a little more advanced or just a little different therapy than I did when I was diagnosed that many years ago. And Dan is my primary caregiver.
And you are mine.
Right, which explains why for the past week our world has been turned upside down a little bit. Big thanks, shout out, if you will, to my mom and my brother Steve, who came in, and our caregiver Marcus, who also pitched in to help us over the last week to nurse you back to what health you have now.
And it's coming back, and I'm feeling better. But, you know, we're talking about the research today, and I don't know if you all have seen it. There's a lot going through today. I don't know why, just a lot with MS research and developments, and we're going to pull some things straight from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society website, and that's www.nmss.org.
And when you go to the MS website, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please do.
But when you go to the MS website, if you look on research, if you click on a tab about research, you will see a lovely, all of the most current research that's being done by the society. And Dan and I, we live in that section of the website quite often because we like to see the new research.
And I think what we're talking about today, because I got an email today about research opportunities, and there was something on the national news about a research project, and then stuff with the National MS Society's research and everything. We wanted to talk about the research because these are exciting developments, but let's also then look at how this research affects the both of us, somebody with relapsing remitting MS and somebody with a progressive form of MS. So, Jennifer, take it away.
Today, in my email I received from the National MS Society, an article entitled Results Published from Study of Bone Marrow Stem Cell Transplants in Relapsing Remitting MS. and that is the HSCT that we've often heard. I mean, Dan and I, we've been living with the disease long enough. I can remember this being talked about 10 years ago. So, I mean, those letters, HSCT, are pretty big, and to see that now it's being talked about again gives it a little more credibility and validity. So, in summary, an international team of researchers published results from a small study of immunosuppressant therapy followed by hematopoietic blood cell producing stem cells in people with aggressive relapsing remitting MS that was not controlled by available disease modifying therapies. So the procedure aims to reboot the immune system to slow down or prevent MS immune attacks against the brain and the spinal cord. So it achieved its primary endpoint with significantly fewer people experiencing MS progression in the group that underwent the HSCT compared with the group who were switched to a different MS disease modifying therapy. So basically what this is they are kind of using some chemotherapy to kind of knock down your immune system a little bit, and then they're taking out, the way I understand it, they're taking out these HCST stem cells and they're reintroducing to the body, to the bloodstream. So I'm looking, forgive me, this is a little bit of hard words, but the stem cell transplantation attempts to reboot the immune system, and it's trying to use your own bone marrow to fight off progression of the disease, which really, for any of us, is the ultimate goal, to slow down or stop the progression of the disease.
And this was related to, similar to the news story that was on national news today, yes?
Yes.
And it was interesting in seeing how it works, what it does. And I guess it's like we're looking at this, and I think it's interesting, and this is where there's the perspectives with the research, and it is exciting research. Let's not
poo-poo it.
Poo-poo it. Let's get that out there. But then I'm watching this story, and my first thought was my wife with Jennifer.
Yes.
Because with this major, huge development in research to help improve and reverse the effects of multiple sclerosis, yet this is only relegated and designated for people with relapsing remitting forms of the disease.
Yes.
And I look at you and I'm like, do you feel slighted, love of my life?
I don't know if slighted is the right word, love of my life, because this study is for you. It is to help the relapsing or remitting forms of the disease. And certainly, a lot of advances have happened in the 20 years that we've been living with the disease. For heaven's sakes, there's a medication available for progressive forms of the disease that came onto the market last year. So I think those of us who have slightly more progressive forms of the disease have to have a lot of patience. And I'm excited that this happened, that this stem cell, this HSCT, stem cell therapy makes a big difference for the sample that did this research. And then it could roll out to affect or impact more people living with relapsing remitting MS. And I hope that further research, it will snowball where it will help people with the secondary progressive forms of the disease or people with primary progressive, because I think that's a population that really has not a whole lot to help with the progression of their very aggressive form of the disease.
And that's where then I don't want to say feel bad, in the sense that I could benefit from this research. Obviously, it's new. It still needs to go through more tests and everything. I get
Right.
that. But I was just like, if that was available straight up right now that I could take it, I don't know if I'd do it.
And why are you not sure that you would do it?
And I don't know how everybody out there in listener land feels about this. I think, 19, 20 years since my diagnosis, part of me wants to say that I'm still maintaining. I'm doing okay. I'm holding my own.
Right.
Obviously, am I worse now than I was 20 years ago? Debatable. I think that how much of it's MS now is just wear and
Age.
tear of age of 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's like I've maintained MS-wise. I would be afraid of upsetting the apple cart, so to speak.
I think the one thing when we watched the story, because there was a national story on CBS this morning, and then on our local channels there were more stories. The one risk that they mentioned several times was a risk of death. I mean, certainly anytime you're taking a chance when you're getting a procedure and you're going into the hospital and you're knocking down your immune system, there is that risk of death. And I don't know, I mean, certainly as a person who this treatment isn't available for, I'm like, my MS stinks, but at least I'm alive. And I don't know if I'm willing to die to try and get rid of this disease. I don't know if that's one of your reservations about trying this.
Well, potentially. I think that there's something that goes also with just. I'm glad that the treatment's there. I know when we were first diagnosed, 20 years ago, split the difference. There were only 3 disease-modifying therapies, all injectables.
Certainly.
And then they came out and they've done major research and development, and there's all these oral meds and more infusions and everything.
So you can go 6 months between therapies, or there's oral medications that you can take every day if you're opposed to taking an injection. So, I mean, there have been a lot of developments in the 20 years.
Absolutely, and I think that that's encouraging, not necessarily for me, but it's good for me to know that there are resources available should I need them. I mean, should my disease-modifying therapy not work for me as well anymore, I would have options. For anybody who's newly diagnosed, they now have other options. And so I'm so encouraged with this, the bone marrow transplant and everything. It's just, I don't know if I would do it.
Well, and I can understand having reservations about that, but this is a horrible reality. How much is it going to cost?
Money's no object to
Well,
us in the
and
MS world, right?
I understand money is no object to us in the MS world.
All of our medicine's expensive.
But all of our medicines are expensive, speak the truth. But that is a concern, and I'm looking at price tags that I saw somewhere it's like $155,000, and that could be grossly overinflated. But just that, I guess your health is priceless, but realistically, do I really want to file for bankruptcy because I want to be healthy?
That's bankruptcy at the price, health at the price of bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's kind of that double-edged sword. Like, sure, I'm physically healthy, but I'm financially not. Or, what implications is that going to have? And if you have health insurance. So there's a lot to think about with this research. Exciting. And I don't want to rain on the MS Society's parade because this is very exciting. But I remember when I was diagnosed 21 years ago, going out to dinner with some of my girlfriends. It was shortly after I received my diagnosis, and there was a new MS medication, like a new injectable medication, that came onto the market, and I didn't know much about the disease or what it really entailed, and I was like, oh my goodness, they're close to a cure, because that's the word that I always attach with hope for the disease, not knowing just a treatment was not a cure. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little fickle or jaded or cynical, maybe that's the word, but it's like I hear of a new treatment and I'm like, yeah, that won't work for me, or that's not realistic for my husband. And so maybe I'm a little negative about this. I don't know. Do you ever feel like that?
Well, I think there's always that feeling that what's in it for me.
Yeah.
There's always the point when there's somebody, people who have children, they do the research, they do the advocacy and stuff so that their children never have to hear the words that you have MS. And that's great, that's beautiful. But from the sense that we don't have kids, but Grant, we have nieces and a nephew that
Right.
you want to protect and make.
Well, and just anyone at all, we know how yucky this disease is to live with. So we want no one else to have to hear the words that you have MS. But it is like this, I feel sometimes like, go with me on this, like a greyhound chasing, or like I don't know what they have dangling in front of them, that they're chasing a rabbit and they're never going to catch it. And it's like this cure, quote unquote cure. That's what keeps us going, is we're constantly chasing the cure. And 21 years after diagnosis, I'm just like, is that ever going to happen for me?
And I think 21 years, obviously we're closer and everything, like with this bone marrow transplant research, with all these things to reboot the immune system, redo things. That, it's not like, I don't believe there's going to be like one single thing that's found, discovered, boom, we've cured multiple sclerosis. We need all these little things, and that's good for the long-term goal, but in the short term, it's just encouraging for what the future does. But for right now, I just don't feel and see where that's really going to help me at this point in time in Mount Pleasant, Michigan on, January
on a
2019.
Wednesday night. And I suppose, maybe it's the end of the day and I just get a little more pessimistic at the end of the day. I need my nap or something. But it's just, I know that any treatment that can help people living with this disease is very much appreciated, and that someday something good will happen, and things are happening. But I just don't look at it the same, wow, there's going to be this ultimate cure. And I guess I am a little jaded. But this is good news, and I don't want to poo-poo it, like I said earlier. And this research is the reason that we support the National MS Society. This is why we participate in Walk MS events or Bike MS events, because we need cures, treatment options, we need research, and maybe it's not exactly the piece that we're always looking for, but every step is going to get us closer.
I was going to say, every development helps. And I think, do you think that multiple sclerosis has made you, I don't want to say, not that you're selfish, but like less selfish, because I see these treatments, this research, and I don't get excited from the sense that it's going to help me, but I get excited from the sense that it's going to help so many other people. There's potential, because MS impacts everybody differently. And so what I have, the disease modifying therapy I have, works for me. you are on the same one did not work for you. So with this, for every new development, I think it's just like closer for everyone to get that kind of treatment that they need to maintain, to move forward.
I believe that, and I think we're all very much in this together. You know, what's the number? 500,000 Americans living with the disease. That we're all in it together, and a cure for Dan is in a strange way a cure for Jennifer. You know, like we've talked about, everything's all going to work together, but I think it's made us very impatient.
Yeah.
You know, like when I hear a little something, I'm like, so maybe, you know, I'm like I'm just an old girlfriend, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before, I've heard this before, I've heard this before. And maybe that is like a bad attitude to have, and I need to fix that. That could be a New Year's resolution, to not be like that. But I know that there is going to be promise, and that it's going to have good results. Sorry, Dan, you're the one that's sick, and I'm the one that's blah, blah.
Well, you
blah.
need to, because I can't talk about it. But I do think that that's, you know, at the end of the day, it is encouraging. It is great news. It doesn't necessarily impact us, but it's just, because you know, and obviously
It'll impact our brethren, our MS brethren, our fellow warriors. You know, maybe this could help Jody or Lisa or Kathy, and we'll just be super excited.
Because you know, we're maintaining, we're doing what we can, and anything
Right.
that can happen, and you know, one fix here, you know, can help another area, and maybe it's not even MS that this solves. Maybe it solves a different disease.
Right.
You know, and what a beautiful thing. That's where collectively the bigger, you know,
The
all of
bigger, yeah.
the you know, chronic illness and stuff. But I think, you know, we spent a lot of time talking about the bone marrow transplant, but you know, there was more research on like gut bacteria and developments with that.
Yeah, and the headline for that was just that immune cells from the gut can turn off brain inflammation in MS. And I think that's pretty encouraging. So if you just, you know, that researchers have reported evidence that immune cells in the intestine can travel to the brain and release antibodies to control inflammation. And I just think that's amazing. The study was done on mice with an MS-like disease and samples from people with MS. But future research will help to determine if this phenomenon can be harnessed as a therapy to stop immune attacks in MS. And really,
That's exciting.
That's exciting. So the one research that we talked about for the bulk of our show is exciting, but then, you know, just this one piece of news research that both you and I, our eyes got really excited. The idea of turning off, you know, future disease progression and being able to snuff out that inflammation that could have huge implications in the world of a person living with multiple
Totally,
sclerosis.
just hold it at bay. And I think this is where just, you know, offering a huge thanks and extension of gratitude to every researcher out there who's doing this work to try and, you know, find a cure, find a treatment, find relief, find reverse, find, you know, myelin repair, anything to help us, you know, forever grateful.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And then, you know, you keep reading a little bit more, and it says that, you know, this gut bacteria and inflammation. And if these findings are confirmed, these results could help inform lifestyle questions about, do certain foods encourage helpful cells to flourish, or can probiotics regulate the gut-brain immune interactions? So these research pieces answer a lot of questions, but they create a lot more. So I think that's why it's really important, if you are a person living with MS or a caregiver for someone with MS, to go to the World Wide Web and look at
nmss.org.
nmss.org. Look at the research. Look at the new advances. It's really exciting. And if you're frustrated with your disease one day, go read these headlines. They will encourage you. Even if you're Debbie Downer for a moment, scroll down a little further and you'll find your gut bacteria story that will make your eyes wide.
It does. I think and that's the encouraging thing, is just looking back then at 20 years ago when we were first diagnosed, and how there were 3 disease modifying therapies, and now there's like 15, 16 different therapies, plus all of the other developments that we have, the knowledge, everything else that we know more about multiple sclerosis and treating it and reversing the effects. It's a very great time. Would you say, like, it's a good time to be diagnosed?
Yes.
Because there's progress being made. I mean, this isn't sugarcoating, because yes, daily challenges, and there are issues and problems and things that I'd rather not live with. However,
there are advances being made, and there's promise for the future. And now, my love, I think you should rest your voice, and I should say thank you to the MS&Me Radio Network for airing our show, A Couple Takes on MS. And thank you all for listening. And thank you to the Blue Giraffe Kid who composed our music. And we look forward to bringing you more stories about MS. And always feel free to reach out to us at our website, danandjenniferdigman.com, or on Twitter at danjendig.
and thank you all for listening, and check out the National MS Society website, nmss.org, and look at the amazing research that they have going on. Take care.